Okay, so we're going to be teaching your dog how to come in between your legs and be in the middle of you. So this has a few different names. Some people call it peekaboo, some people call it middle. I call it between for my dogs. So I'm going to be working you through the step-by-step process of getting this. So the first step is that your dog has to have the ability of following a lure. If they don't have the ability of following the lure, you need to work on this separately first. And by that, I just mean that the dog is able to follow a food lure wherever you place them and follow it consistently. Because if not, then you're going to really struggle for the dog to be able to get into the position that you want them to be in. Good job. Good boy. So I'll link the video for the lure in the description of this video for you to practice that first if you don't have a good follow the lure. If you do, then we can work on the first step of this. Okay, so the first step, you're going to have food one treat at a time in your left hand or your right hand. So this is also going to depend on whether you're going to ask your dog to come into the middle position on your left side or your right side, or you could do both. I personally just always do my left. I don't know why, it just happens that way. But if you want to do it your right, you're just going to flip everything that I say. So for example, with my left hand, I'm going to have a bunch of treats in my right hand just for easy access. And with my left hand, I'm going to have one treat. We're going to start with a dog in front of us like this. And we're going to show the treat to their nose, lure them just by the side of the leg, and release the treat as soon as they reach that part of the leg. So the reason for this is just because we're going to break it down into small steps. So every time they come back in front, we're just going to lure them and release the treat just at the back of the leg. So I'm going to turn around so you can see that both ways. Nice. So after you've done that 4 or 5 reps, by reps I just mean 4 or 5 lure and releases, you can then start to move your hand back behind the leg. So at this point, you're withholding the release of the treat, and you're not releasing it until they hit this point, just right behind your leg. Hey, yes, I know, good boy. So again, I'm gonna turn around so you can see it this way. Release it there. Good, and release it there. Your dog is unlikely to come through the middle at that point, just because obviously Jacob knows this well, he's doing that. But what they will do is just come back around the front of that, back around the front of you. So we're releasing it here, nice. Getting them back around the front, releasing it here, excellent. Oh, good boy. So once we've done a little bit of that, you're now going to have treats in both hands. So you're going to have one treat in your left hand, and you're going to have 3 or 4 treats in your right hand. So what happens the first time the dog gets in between your legs and is in that middle position, you're going to jackpot them by rewarding with that 3 or 4 treats in a row. So I'm going to have 3 or 4 treats, there we go, in 4. In my right hand, I'm going to have 1 in my left hand. So I'm still going to release this treat to them, but as soon as I've released it, I'm reaching through my legs with the hand of other treats and kind of pulling them through with the lure. So I'll try and do that slowly. So I'm going to show them food, comes around the back, I release that treat, and I also show this treat. I move through the middle, I release that treat, and the next treat, and the next treat, and the next treat. So you're releasing them all essentially at once. If you've got a really pushy dog like Jacob, they'll try and just steal the whole thing from you. To be honest, that's fine. It's still a jackpot, they're getting loads of food. And if they stay in that position, all we want to do is just keep rewarding them. Most of the time, what happens if you have a dog that's trained a lot in front of you is that they'll be in that position and they'll not be comfortable with looking up at you this way, and they'll just move out of it. If that happens, don't worry. But if they do stay in the middle position, you're just going to keep feeding them there until you can say, okay, and throw a treat out. And you missed that completely. So I'm going to turn around and do that from the other side again. So 1 treat in my left and 3 or 4 treats in my right. So I'm moving the dog back around here. I'm releasing that treat, showing them this one, moving them through, and then releasing those 3 or 4 treats in that middle position. Good job. And if they stay in that middle position, we're just carrying on to rewarding them until we can release them, okay, out in front. So like everything, you're not naming it until the dog loves it. So every single time that you're able to lure the dog through and they're coming through your legs, absolutely no problem. There's no hesitation. There's no coming round and then falling behind the other side. Weird place to be. If there's no hesitation, then what you want to do is start naming it. So you can choose the cue you're gonna use, but obviously I use between. So I'll give you an example of that. So it's the same thing this time. Jacob, back, back, good. We're going to have the one treat in our left hand. I'm going to name it before I lure it. Okay, so I'm going to say the cue and then I'm going to lure. Between. And then release that treat and then these treats. Nice, good boy. Good. And you're just going to say the cue once, reward the behavior, and then get them out again. Good. So I would do that again, 4 or 5 reps. Once you're easily able to get the dog in between the middle position and you're happy with the cue that you're using, you're going to start to fade out the lure. So we're going to fade out the left hand first, so the hand that guides them into that position, and we're still going to reward with the hand that's rewarding into the middle position. So I'm going to have food in my right hand and not my left hand. So I'm going to have 2 or 3 treats now in my right hand, and with my left hand I'm just going to have an open palm. I'm just going to say the cue and guide the dog into that position, and then as soon as they come through the legs, I'm going to reward them with my right hand. Between. Yes, good boy. Nice. Good. Excellent. Okay. Good. So again, multiple reps of this. All of this would obviously be broken down into multiple training sessions. So one session for the lure behind the legs and then into the middle, and then one session for adding in the cue and doing that, and then this next session for fading out the lure. So multiple sessions, multiple reps. So once you're happy with that, you can then start to fade out the food from your right hand. And this is where we're going to come in with our marker word. We haven't necessarily used the marker yet because the release of the food, to be honest, is enough of a marker to tell the dog what position is getting them the reinforcement. So you don't need to use your marker at that point. But we are going to start to use it now. So I'm going to ask Jacob into the position, and then when he gets into that middle position, I'm going to mark yes, and then reach in and feed. Okay. So at this point, your dog might see your hand move to your treat pouch or your pocket and then want to get out of the position. If that happens, we might need to change it up and try and have a couple of treats in your right hand still for a few reps, or be quite quick with the reinforcement. But hopefully your dog is so used to that position now and getting reinforced there, they're just going to stay there. So we're going to do the same thing. Jacob, between. Yes. And then we're going to mark and still feed in that middle position. The position we feed in is super, super important. We don't want to be feeding out here, for example, because the dog is then going to be not in the middle position at all. So if your dog tries to push your hand out that way when you're, if you're to feed them in this middle position and they push you out that way, then you kind of got to try and hold your hand still, even if you've got a strong dog, so that they're only getting rewarded. They're getting the release of the food when they're in that middle position and not out here, good boy, or not out to the side or anywhere else. Good. Okay, out. Good boy. So same thing again. Between. Yes. Good boy. Nice. So lastly, once your dog is really getting good at that position, and every single time that you put your hand signal out and you ask for the cue, they're coming right in between and looking up at you expecting something good, you can maybe start to add in a couple of positions, so body positions, so the sit or the down. Jacob kind of does a sit in that position quite naturally because it's easier to look up at me in the sit than it is in the stand. But if your dog's not doing that, you could ask for it. Ready? Between. Good. Sit. Yes. Again, we're marking and reinforcing the behavior at that point. Lie down. Yes. Good boy. Can we do a sit up? We've not done that before. Sit up. Yes, we've not done that before. Good boy. Nice. Okay. So hopefully that makes sense. As always, if you have any questions, let me know, and happy training.